You're up.
Cheers. Does this microphone actually work? I couldn't work out. Oh, right, okay. I'm the smart one in the room. Okay. Yeah. First thing to say, that was a few years ago, clearly. Things have changed. So, yeah, I was put on the spot and asked to present something about what I do within sales. I've been with Alteryx for 3 years, and it's really gone through a stage of growth. Gurdeep's probably going to give you the sell, because I think we're hiring, aren't we, Gurdeep? Stitch up. So when I think back about what's been successful, what people at Alteryx care about, when we think about our biggest customers that we have in Europe, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they probably only spent 20 or 30K with us, and now they're sort of 7-figure deals. And so we think about how did that happen, how did that come about? And we really, we think about when we're trying to sell to the enterprise, we're trying to get to that C level, get in front of the big C, and try and pitch them our product and sell, right? But in reality, that's not how it works. And so I want to talk about how you create noise within an account or network an account so that when you get to the C level, you've got a compelling story, some interesting use cases and people backing you, so that journey can come with a bit of force. So I've written them down in my hand so I don't forget. So the first thing to think about is, okay, how do you do that? And Mark was just talking about it. Hello, Mark. It really is boringly to say, it doesn't matter what level of sales you're in, the number one most important thing that's going to move the dial on anything is activity. I don't care who you think you are, but ultimately making calls, sending emails, getting on site with customers is the most important thing. Even if you've got an ISR to do it for you, you should still be doing it, and that's the most important thing to really generate that. What I think is when I start to network an account, call around, try and understand what's going on, I really like to build org charts, structure charts, plot where the people are that I'm talking to, what department they're in, who they interact with, how many people report into them, who they report into, and start filling that out. And maybe you give that to your ISR, or maybe you give that to someone in a meeting and say, hey, I'm missing these names. Can you plug them in so that you can continue to build that journey out? And then really importantly is if you speak to people and you can tell they're not buyers, you qualify them out. Fuck it, why don't you just ask them to fill in the structure chart until they hang up on you, right? So keep pushing in that sense. I remember when I was doing my recruitment days, we used to absolutely hammer people on structure charts until they told us to fuck off. So option. No, I hope so either. I hope not either. So the next piece I want to talk about was referrals. So you build out that structure chart, you understand where people fit within the organization, who else you can sell to. And this is when you start to build what James was talking about, this notion of a champion. Someone who's going to go and advocate for you, but it's more than that. They've got the ability to go and pitch upwards, pitch sideways and let people know. Maybe they start talking about the product for you. Maybe they set up meetings for you, but you also lean on them for referrals. So every person you speak to, and they've been using the product or you've been showing them the product, who else have they shown it to? Who have they been in the cafeteria with and talked about it? These are really easy referrals to get because inevitably people do talk, especially if they're on an industrial park where there is nowhere to go at lunch. Right? They inevitably talk about something they've seen that may have helped them, or something they've seen that they don't like, but inevitably your name gets around, and it's something you certainly want to follow up on. So we talk about champions then and building and cultivating that champion. This is super important, something at Alteryx that we really hone in on, because like you said, James, and like they were saying in Atlanta, talking about this notion of how do you get the sale from within the business to happen, and you have to find these people, and I think there's this falsehood around saying you've got one person, you can turn them into this champion. I just don't think it's the case. I think you have to keep rooting around. You have to keep finding someone that fits, someone that has the will, the power, and the inclination to actually go and sell that for you, and that's going to create that big journey so that when you get to that C level, you've got that story. The next thing is selling new footprint. So I focus on an expand role, taking customers who've got 1 or 2 users and I'm taking them from there, so not doing a land as such. So maybe this is more geared towards that expand piece. But I think there's a reliance traditionally to just sell to the people we've always sold to. So someone's bought something, let's sell more to that person. They're going to keep buying forever, right? They've bought one, they'll buy 500. It doesn't quite work like that. And so it's that leaning on that referrals and that champions piece to actually continue to land in other parts of the business. And once you've landed in that other part of the business, that's when you start creating that noise, and that's when people start noticing your product. So I think there should be a real stronger lean within expand sales on this piece. So I think people get lazy. They say, I was a land rep. I've moved into an expand position now. I don't have to do land anymore. I just ride my customers all the way on the gravy train. And I just think that's just not the case. So continuing to add new footprint, add noise, and then so that when you're there, let's just check, you can create a community of users. That was written down in my head. Community of users is really important. So if you can push then all the people who are interested, who are using, maybe they've bought, maybe they're thinking about it, push them together and get them to create a user group. That's really powerful because they share use cases, they share successes, they share failures, and they start proliferating out. And you'll find that if you set up a user group that kicks off 1 month and there's 10, 15 people there, maybe that's 20, 25 the next month. And by the end of the year, you might have a whole load of people there that you didn't even know, don't even know what part of the organization they're in, and they might certainly not demo to. So that's the real important piece, I think, is you just keep on, to summarize, keep hammering the phones, keep having good conversations and getting on site. Build out those structure charts, understand what you know and what you don't know, the people you know, the people you don't know, and fill in those gaps and start hammering those guys. Find a champion. Don't build a champion. Find a champion. Get the referrals you need to generate the noise and push them together. And then once you're there, you've got a much stronger story to go out there and contact the people who are going to make a much bigger, larger purchase that's going to really make a difference to your number and really make a difference to how the company uses the product. And with that beep, that's all I had to say. Thanks. Thank you very much.